The restaurant fell silent so suddenly that even the clinking of glasses seemed to disappear. 3 large men stood around one table near the center of the room, their faces hard and threatening. In the middle of them sat a powerful CEO whose name was known across the city. Customers looked away. Waiters froze. Fear spread through the restaurant like a cold wind. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody wanted trouble. Then, from table 12, a quiet single father slowly stood up. And within the next few minutes, something happened that would change several lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness, courage, and second chances can change the world, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more heartwarming stories. The CEO's name was Daniel Carter. At only 42 years old, he had built one of the most successful technology companies in the country. Newspapers called him brilliant. Business magazines called him unstoppable. But success had come with a price. Long hours, endless pressure, and years of sacrifice had left him isolated. While people admired his achievements, very few truly knew him. That evening, Daniel had chosen to eat alone in a busy downtown restaurant after a difficult board meeting. He wanted a quiet meal before returning to another sleepless night of work. Across the room sat Michael Turner, a 36-year-old warehouse worker and single father. Life had not been easy for him. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife to illness. Since then, every day had been a struggle. He worked long shifts, paid bills carefully, and raised his 8-year-old daughter Emma with all the love he had. Emma sat beside him that evening, coloring pictures while waiting for dessert. To most people in the restaurant, Michael looked ordinary. He wore simple clothes, carried tired eyes, and spoke very little. Nobody knew how many sacrifices he made each day just to keep his daughter smiling. Then everything changed. The 3 men entered the restaurant and walked directly toward Daniel's table. Their expressions carried anger and confidence. Soon they surrounded him, blocking every path away from the table. Customers immediately sensed danger. People lowered their heads and pretended not to notice. The men began speaking aggressively. Chairs scraped against the floor. Daniel remained seated, trying to stay calm, but tension filled the air. The restaurant manager looked terrified. No one wanted to intervene. Michael watched from table 12. He looked around the room and saw dozens of people avoiding eye contact. Fear had frozen everyone. Then he looked at Emma. She was watching too. At that moment, Michael remembered something his late wife used to say. She believed children learned more from actions than words. She often said that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision to do what was right despite being afraid. Michael's heart pounded. He was scared. But he knew his daughter was watching. Slowly, he stood. Every eye in the restaurant turned toward him. The room seemed to hold its breath as Michael walked toward the confrontation. The 3 men glanced at him and laughed dismissively. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't physically intimidating. He was simply a tired father trying to do the right thing. Yet something about his calm presence interrupted the situation. Michael positioned himself near Daniel and firmly signaled for restaurant staff to call security and the police. His confidence surprised everyone. Other customers suddenly found courage as well. One person stood. Then another. Then several more. Within moments, the 3 men realized they were no longer facing one isolated target. They were facing an entire room of people who had finally decided not to remain silent. The situation quickly lost its power. Security arrived, followed shortly by authorities. The men were escorted away without serious harm coming to anyone. Relief swept through the restaurant. People applauded. Some customers even wiped tears from their eyes. Daniel sat quietly, overwhelmed not by fear but by what he had witnessed. A wealthy CEO surrounded by hundreds of successful people had been helped not by executives, lawyers, or influential friends. He had been helped by a struggling single father who had almost nothing except courage. That moment stayed with Daniel long after the restaurant emptied. Over the following weeks, he found himself unable to forget Michael and Emma. He arranged to meet them again and learned about their life. He discovered the endless challenges Michael faced, the financial pressure, the long work hours, and the sacrifices he made to provide opportunities for his daughter. Daniel was deeply moved. For the first time in years, he began seeing success differently. True greatness, he realized, wasn't measured by wealth, titles, or company valuations. It was measured by character. Months later, Michael received an unexpected opportunity. Daniel offered him a position at his company, not because he needed saving, but because his integrity, leadership, and courage deserved recognition. The new role transformed Michael's future. He could spend more time with Emma. He could provide stability. He could finally breathe after years of struggle. But the greatest change wasn't financial. Emma watched her father become a symbol of courage. She learned that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. She learned that standing up for others matters. And Daniel learned that one act of kindness can completely change a life. Special request: comment below with the words, "Courage creates change," if you believe one brave decision can inspire an entire room. Years later, people still talked about what happened in that crowded restaurant. Not because a famous CEO was threatened. Not because fear filled the room. They remembered it because one quiet single dad chose courage when everyone else chose silence. And that single decision created a ripple effect that changed lives forever. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps spread more stories of hope, kindness, courage, and second chances to people who may need them most. Sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the richest, the loudest, or the most powerful. Sometimes it's simply the person who chooses to stand up when everyone else sits down. Red Heart.